Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
So I was listening to this really interesting podcast yesterday on Oprah, Super Soul Conversations, and I can't remember the name of the guy. Maybe I do. So I remember thinking like, oh, it sounds like Hal Elrod. Something Elrod. Anyways, I will give you the link for the podcast if you want to listen to it. But it's fascinating, the story of this like normal, everyday guy who makes documentaries that had this experience. It's so interesting when he tells it, because he's made a documentary about it now, which is called Wake Up, which is what I wanted to riff on today, where he was visited by, sound really weird, but I'm just going to say it, angels, spirits, dark spirits, light spirits, geometry shapes, like an 11-hour experience of like, not a guy who was looking for this stuff, not like, you know, believe him, don't believe him, whatever. He doesn't really care. He just feels like anyways, he goes and just listen to the podcast, the episode. But it was just this whole notion of like waking up that I feel there really is. And I've been hearing people say this for the last couple of years, like, you know, the consciousness of people is really shifting. And it made me think of this, right? It made me think of, and they even talked about this on the episode too, of that, you know, and I agree with this. I agree that things start happening to you when universe or God is telling you to wake up, to pay attention. And it's going to first be like, you know, a little whisper, and then it's a little louder, and then it's like screaming at you. Or then you'll just have this like crash or something that happens, or, you know, where it's like now you are forced to do that. Or I guess you're not. You could continue to numb and ignore and go, I don't have time, or I don't know, or I'm not ready, or like, I don't know, whatever things that come up, or fear that stops you from doing what you're being guided to do. But what often happens before there is a collective shift in thought, belief, way of being, all of that is there, what was it, who that said something like there are three, like whenever a new idea is introduced, first people ridicule it, then the words were this, vehemently oppose it, and then they accept it as truth and as fact. And what I think right now is happening is twofold. Is number one, that there is a rising up of people just dissatisfied with this current way of being in our world. I was going to say in our country. I live here in Canada, and I was going to say continent, but it's not just U.S., Canada, North America. Like, it's a lot of you that are just feeling this, right? And what are we seeing? We're seeing like everything's swinging to the other side at this time where everything's being vehemently opposed, right? Where first it was all about like, okay, positivity and memes and like, look on the brighter side, don't sweat the small stuff and all this thing, to like what was really required, the heavy lifting, is the deep work of really remembering who we are and our connection to source. And healing through all the past shit of when we grew up, or traumas, or relationships, or whatever, in order for us to be truly whole. And how, you know, that painful process is not what most people want. And we have an array of numbing devices now at our fingertips at any time, which, you know, the internet has made readily available for us. Nothing wrong with the internet. This is not a bash on technology. I think there's nothing wrong with technology. I think it does give us access to things at a quicker pace. And I'm not necessarily sure if all those things we have access to is a good thing. But ways that we can numb through Facebook and through Netflix and through porn and through shopping, online shopping and food, and I mean just, you know, booze, it goes on and on and on and on and on. So I think this shift that's happening is, again, an upheaval of like, we are not happy with the way the world is or the way that you're feeling in the world. So number one is that. And I think number two, that there is this rising up in this shift where the reason why there's so many people go like, oh my God, racism is at all-time high. Politically, like US specifically, like things just feel like they're fucked, right? Like, or you just take a look around the world and it's just one tragedy after the other, after the other, after the other. So I feel this is the collective world vehemently opposing at that state, right? First ridicule, oh, that funny woo-woo stuff, that's so like, whatever, to now really opposing it. It's swinging to the far other side. And we're at a place right now where I don't know what that tip will be, where it'll be accepted as fact. Right? I think, remember when, the paleo diet, most of you are familiar with the paleo diet because it's so, commonplace now, a norm. Everyone knows what it is. Paleo, they might say like keto, really similar. Keto's higher fat, paleo is going to be a little bit higher protein and just really like eating as Paleolithic man did, right? So, meats, vegetables, some fruit, nuts and seeds, no processed shit, like, eating the way that we really used to. And all the research behind it was like significant for like 15 years. And a book called The Paleolithic Diet, or just the Paleo Diet, came out by Dr. Lauren Cordain, PhD. And it was ridiculed. And it was seen as like, oh, this is like bullshit. What do you mean? Eat more fat. No, fat's bad. What do you mean eat high protein? No, that's going to stress, kidneys and liver and like, no, that's, oh, but nobody has the money to buy that. Oh, but nobody has the time to cook their own food. Oh, but, it was ridiculed. And then it was really opposed. You started to see some of the big guns and like, medicine, some of the bigger names that hit all the different, like, the TV show and the news and the talk show circuits and talk about how this is dangerous and all this kind of stuff. And then now it's just like, you can go, there's like paleo restaurants, people accept it as, hey, you know what, this is a pretty good way to eat. And I remember when I started paleo, back when I flipped over from being vegetarian to eating meat again. I was vegetarian for 17 and a half years, vegan for the first 6. And I heard Robb Wolf speak. If you don't, you can just Google him. Robb Wolf, 2 B's, R-O-B-B, Wolf with an E. I think it's Wolf with an E. Yeah, W-L-F-E. Anyways, Robb with 2 B's. And I heard him speak at a CrossFit nutrition certification. He used to be connected with CrossFit. It's one of the speakers that was within that. And hearing him speak and everything he had to say, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to start eating meat again. Everything he's saying makes complete sense. And I had no intention. I was like, I'm going to go here because this paleo diet keeps coming up. It's big in the CrossFit world, which I was big in CrossFit at the time. And I'm just going to understand it for my patients and practice at the time as chiropractor and Robert, and going in just 2 hours, I'm in flipping. And there was no cookbooks on it. I remember going online and seeing this like really like bad like e-cookbook. Nothing digital was really that great then. So that would have been like 2009, I want to say 2009. So 9 years ago. And how much it was just such an infancy at that point, even though there was significant research. But it took a while for that shift, right? So I believe that this waking up that people are doing, moving towards, this feeling that they're having is either number one, pulling them towards it, and they're like, all right, I'm going to start digging deep into this, man, because there's something to this. And I want connection back to back to everything in the universe, back to world, back to, again, I kind of pause of saying like God at times, because I know that the G word would repel me like nothing else in the past. Now I'm okay with it. And now with how I've shifted and what I've studied and what I now know to be true, that I have no problem saying. But I know for some of you that's going to be like, it's a trigger, right? So we're going to say, I'm going to be like Oprah here. I'm going to be Oprah. I've heard Oprah say she uses the word God and universe interchangeably. And I think kind of for that purpose, right? Of just some people don't want to hear the God word, but they're okay with universe, right? So they want this, connection back to the universe, back to source, higher power, to like each other. And are moving towards it. And then there's another part, which I think that either consciously or unconsciously are feeling this, but they're afraid of it. And it's not the norm these days. And it's not really accepted as like, truth that we go through this. If you talk to someone that's kind of in the I'm a seeker, spiritual person kind of world, then sure, it's going to be accepted, but not in the general population, man. No, you're weird, you're still freaky, you're one of those, you're woo-woo, you're all that kind of stuff. And it's funny because I used to like lovingly kind of, take jabs at my woo-woo friends, and I realized I'm like, you know what? I'm woo-woo. I think the reason that I did that was like, I was uncomfortable with it. And so, a lot of things we're uncomfortable with, we judge, we make fun of, we shame it, we push it away. Now I accept it. I think everybody's on their own path, their own journey with this. But for some, it's too fearful. It's too like, no, not going to open up that box because I don't know what I'm going to uncover. And what if I don't like what I see? And people still going to like me if I become someone different? And, I got these kids to raise and I need to produce for my family. Like, I don't have the time for this. Like, there becomes all of these reasons why, and so you just push it away. But the thing is like that little whisper of it starts getting louder and louder, and the only way that you can tell it to shut the fuck up is you choose your weapon of numb. Maybe you drink, right? The acceptable women who drink a lot of wine. Maybe, it's shopping for you online. Maybe it is, sex or porn, it's food. It's whatever. You're going to use some numbing agent of choice to like dull that voice so you can't hear it. You can't hear the voice inside. But here's the biggest thing I want you to hear about this today, sister. Not my beliefs and my theories on all this stuff, but like it is okay for number one, for you to invest in yourself to begin to awaken. Because listen, we're all asleep. There's all times in our life when we're asleep. Some of us, we've been asleep from the moment we, the first person that said something to us has started to shut us down inside. Or we, we're in a very dysfunctional family growing up. Or we've had some form of trauma that's happened to us that's shut that down. So this is not to judge you if you're like, oh my God, how's she nailing me? I don't have a fucking crystal ball. This is just understanding that we are so alike, all of us. We all think we're different. We all think we're going through. I suddenly feel like I'm Jerry Seinfeld when he goes on a rant and his voice goes really high. I got myself all thrown up because I'm thinking about Seinfeld. Yeah, we all think we're these special snowflakes where nobody understands me, nobody gets me, and I'm the only person like this, and I'm so weird. And like, I know all this for truth because that was me. I have been through that. So I get it if that's where you're at, of like, no, but you don't understand, Karen. Like, I got some issues, man. And if I open this shit up, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I get it. Me too. Me too. All of us. But you have choices to either start doing things. And listen, it could be as simple as action if you start listening to certain podcasts. I find that listening to certain ones, it really opens me up to new ideas, especially ones that I wouldn't think of. Of course, you might go, oh yeah, Karen's listening to Oprah podcast. Like, duh, right? But, I'm listening to one which is by the actor Dax Shepard. He's a guy who's also married to actress Kristen Bell. And he's been in a bunch of, he's acted for a long, long time. But he's a really interesting guy. He's a former addict, like 13, 14 years sober. He's a father. He's a husband. He has his own issues and shit. He's a great interview. And it's a lot of, he's interviewing celebrities, right? But it's all these conversations I'm hearing, which I might go, I kind of turned it on more for entertainment value. And then it's like, I'm actually getting a lot out of this. Like, so it doesn't have to be that you just go, okay, I got to wake up. That means I got to read the Bible. I got to go to church. Maybe it means you just start listening to a different podcast. You start to listen and open yourself up to new ideas. Maybe it means you open up a book and you start reading it. Maybe it means you simply have a conversation. Maybe you join a Facebook group. I don't know what that is for you. You go to a live event or a retreat experience. I don't know. But you begin to simply do something to wake up and recognize what that is for you when you numb. and begin to either just say, I'm just completely done with it, or choose this less. So that is your more tip for today, sister. Like, in order for you to wake up, what's something you can start doing, like today? I don't know, find that podcast. Listen to the Dax Shepard one, and by the way, is called Armchair Expert. I'll give the links to all this in the show notes. Or you listen to Oprah, or, maybe just simply listening to this podcast. You start listening to old ones. I don't know, but you start doing something that allows you to begin to wake up. It's time for you. Yes, you have the time. Yes, you're ready. And yes, no one's ever ready. Listen, is there ever a good time for anything in life? Did you go like, now's a good time to be a parent? Yep, now. Now's a good time to get married. Now's a good time to go through that really bad thing like death or a miscarriage or, breakup of a marriage. Like, yeah, it was a good time for these things. No, it's never a good time, but you simply say the time is now. So I say this to you, sister, now. The time is now for you to wake up. Will you accept this invitation? And if you do, the more tip is this, is you're just going to do one thing today. Do one thing, because one thing leads to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. But it starts with doing that one thing and taking a step. What can you do to begin to wake up today? So, sister, make sure to subscribe to the Woman Wanting More newsletter if you don't already. So many of you don't, and it's crazy. I send out good shit. I'm actually only mailing out now about once or twice a week. So all the podcast links with the show notes and resources, blog posts I've written, other things that are coming up with the Women Wanting More movement. There's going to be information the next week or so about the new Facebook group that I'm creating. Brand new free community for women and men, by the way. And it's going to be about stuff like this. And so you're going to hear about it in the newsletter first. So head over to drkarenosborne.com/action guide, enter your email, and I'll get you hooked up on that today. So I will talk to the next episode, sister. A life of more is one step away from you beginning to wake up to the life that you've been given every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosborne.com/newsletter.